Good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Lambert, the CEO of the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 5th Annual Advanced Therapies Investor Day. It's our pleasure to welcome you. Today's meeting, we hope, will provide you with some really unique insights into the ATMP sector, both with a highlight on clinical and commercial progress. As many of you may know, it's been a remarkable year in the sector, so it's always fun to stand up and get to tell you good news. Our program today will feature a number of executives from a range of companies, including clinical and commercial experts who will address specific questions regarding the outlook for advanced therapies in key areas, including technology assessments and market access, accelerated regulatory schemes, utilizing various resources to secure needed financing, and we'll also hear company presentations from numerous promising European and international advanced therapies companies. To begin with, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine. And one of the things that we as an organization do is assemble data on the sector as a whole. And I'd like to use that data to give you a picture of where things are in the ATMP sector today. So first of all, the Alliance for Regenerative Medicine is the global advocate for the sector. And our purpose in that advocacy is to foster the R&D investment and commercialization of the transformational therapies that this sector is producing. We work with over 275 member organizations to promote this rapidly expanding field. Promoting this field, in our view, involves 5 key priority areas. The first is to advocate for a clear and ideally harmonized regulatory and review pathways. The second is to enable market access and a reasonable reimbursement for the products that come out of this sector. We also work through events like this one today to facilitate investment in this space and sustainable access to capital. We are addressing industrialization and manufacturing challenges through standards and other related work. And we conduct a fair amount of stakeholder outreach and communication in order to share with the media and the public the developments of this space. Just a note about definition. When we talk about regenerative medicine technologies, we really think about our work covering the breadth of the regenerative medicine space. That is, those approaches that augment, repair, replace, or regenerate organs and tissues. So in our lexicon, that includes gene therapy, gene-modified cell therapy, genome editing, cell therapy, as well as tissue engineering. So a picture of the global landscape. So currently, we've identified 843 global companies in this space. As you can see, the activity in this space is widespread, but dominated by the US and Europe. Looking more closely at the European sector landscape, you see a similar phenomenon, which is that the ATMP firms exist in many, many countries across Europe. There's considerable activity in the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, and France. If we look not by number of companies, but by global financings, you'll see that the news is very, very good for 2017. It's been a strong year with global financing already doubled from where it was at this point last year. And those financings are being led predominantly by the gene and gene-modified cell therapy sector, but we continue to see strong financings across the 3 main domains of the sector. Just a few examples of some of the key acquisitions, partnerships, and financings in this space. You can see that this, again, the activity is definitely global, with European-based deals highlighted here in bold and in purple. The dominant deal of the year so far has naturally been Gilead's announced all-cash $11.9 billion acquisition of Kite, which, needless to say, got the attention of many in this space and outside of it. But as you can see from this chart, that is by no means the only major deal to occur. To give you a sense of the public company landscape here in Europe, here are sort of 15 of the major public companies in the ATMP space in Europe. You can see there the market cap of these companies, that they range across a number of disorders and geographies, but together constitute one component of a very, very thriving sector. I see people taking pictures of the slides, so I'll pause. Another way to look at this sector is by clinical trial activity, and here too the news is extremely good. We've identified 934 clinical trials going on worldwide. These are both industry and investigator-led clinical trials. And you can see by the chart the way these break down by phases. And of course, one of the exciting things about this data is the number of products in phase 3. Each of these data points is up from a quarter ago and the quarter before that, and there's a very consistent trend of increase in the number of products and therapies in clinical trials. In addition to these trial numbers, we also have 11 products currently have filed and are awaiting regulatory approval. So we sometimes talk amongst ourselves at ARM that the word inflection point is sort of an overused term, but it's hard not to feel that way about where we are in the space right now, with so many products poised to join the market, with so much investor interest in this space, and so much exciting scientific and clinical news. A little bit more of a deep dive into the clinical trials. You can see here that one of the interesting things about the clinical trial data is that the trials range across a wide variety of indications. There's clearly a strong emphasis in oncology. Cardiology makes up nearly 10% of the number, but from there you can see there are a vast number of indications being addressed by ATMPs. And lastly, I'll just highlight a few of the key clinical milestones and data events of the year. There have been a number of exciting clinical milestones in this sector this year, both in US and in Europe. Some of those highlights include Novartis's approval of Kymriah in the United States and its very recent filing here in Europe. In the United States, less than a year ago, legislation was passed to create a special regulatory pathway for ATMPs. This was the first time a sort of technology-specific regulatory pathway has been established in the US. There, the pathway is called the RMAT, for Regenerative Medicine and Advanced Therapies designation. The awarding of this designation gives a sponsor particular interaction with the FDA and the ability to have a more flexible use of data in order to advance their product. That legislation was passed in December of last year, and already at this point there have been 11 or 12 designations awarded, again across a number of indication areas. So from our perspective, it shows that the US regulators are very, very forward-leaning in this space. They've implemented this authority very, very rapidly. They're promptly reviewing the applications they receive. They're open to getting both cell therapy and gene therapy applications, and it's creating a real opportunity for companies in this space. And then lastly, I'll note that Tygenix has been also granted the orphan drug designation recently by the FDA, and you can see there are a number of other recent important clinical milestones for UK companies listed here. So I hope I've given you a sort of sense of the space and a sense that it's a great time to be in this space. We really couldn't be more pleased with the data as we see them and our interactions with both investors, regulators, payers, companies, and the like all recognize that things are changing rapidly in this space and that next year the level of activity is likely to vastly surpass the level of activity in 2017. So it's a very, very promising time indeed. And with that, let me just welcome you all again and encourage you to take part of as much of the rest of the day as you can. I have the pleasure now to introduce my colleague Keith Thompson, who is the head of the UK Catapult, but also a board member of ARM, and for the last 4 years, our partner in this meeting. So thank you very much for coming. Keith, I'll turn it over to you.